So now it's time for our first panel, and the topic is Care is the New Marketing, and I have experts who will be enlightening us. So without further ado, I would like to invite them on stage, and it's a request to bring in some energy. We'll keep applauding for all the panelists and the moderator who will be coming and joining us on stage.
Good evening, everyone. We are here for a discussion on Care is the New Marketing as a panel. We're going to try and keep it short and sweet so that we can also entertain questions from all of you. I'll first quickly introduce everyone here. I'll look at my thing first. I don't know why I have a catalog here.
Like that over-prepared child who forgets right before the exam bell hits.
This is just to make everyone else at ease. So I'm Nikhil. I work with TPW India as their VP of Martech. And I essentially spend most of my time managing Nissan in India and Middle East and customer experiences across the journey in digital, ATL, how does it come across in media. We have, starting from there, Chirag. Chirag is Senior VP at Mudra, and he comes to us with loads of experience from publishers, all the platforms you want to integrate. If you are a platform, then you might want to steal him later. We have Prateek, who's the Associate Director of ORM at Games 24/7. Please sign up for his games, and you might get some extra credits. I'm good. Yeah. We have Priyanka, who is the Senior Growth Marketeer at GEP Worldwide, which is Globally Procurement,
Yes.
the older name. We have Kumud, who is Senior VP from Motilal Oswal.
Hello,
I don't think that brand name's any introduction. And we have Abhishek, who is the marketing head at Mahindra First Choice.
Hi, guys.
So we're going to start off with a very simple question. What's your POV on Care is the New Marketing? Is it really new? Has it come of age now? Or has it been around and we're just discovering it in a different sense? Chirag, you want to start? And then we'll...
So Care is, I don't think so it's the new marketing. It's always been there because, your customer centricity, care, or for that matter, experience. It's the experience era. So there were different kind of eras, business eras, production era. As much as you can produce is what people will buy. There was a sales era where as much as you could cover the market, people would buy. Today, it is not production. It is not, you can't push products to your consumers. It has to be an experience. It has to be an end-to-end experience, which starts from, before that, your consumer could even think about thinking about your brand, or thinking even before the need arises of a particular type of product. The consumer doesn't even know you at this point of time. So care has to start from there. Experience has to start from there, from that touch point to throughout the consumer journey. If you can give a perception, or if you can give send out that message that a particular brand cares for you, and that is only possible through a enriched and a relevant experience throughout the customer journey. It's only then it's the only imperative for any business to be successful today.
Prateek, I want you to tell us about your view on the evolution per se.
Yeah, so actually, I totally agree with Chirag on the fact that care is not the new marketing. It was always there, but typically it is just evolved. And how it's evolved, I'll tell you, for example, care is the core emotion most of us use. Most of our advertisers, or any brand or any advertising that you see, they are typically triggering the emotions. So care was always there, but it was typically the pre-sales funnel. Now the only difference that has happened is it is also the post-sales, which is it's typically evolved mainly because of digital penetration, and obviously it peaked because of all thanks to COVID. All of us, all the brands across India, be it from any sector, they've started care, taking social customer care, or just in general customer care, a very, very serious business.
Being a necessary support function to a comms hook to a reason for brand preference today.
Yes, totally.
Priyanka, what do you think about this?
Well, I do resonate with my fellow panelists. It is not a new thing. We have been hearing that customer is king since, I think, 1960s when we were on traditional medias, and then it did continue to the digital media as well. I think with COVID, it just became the forefront of everything. Before COVID, it probably was just, okay, one brand can choose not to focus on customer and just the product. But because COVID changed a lot of the ecosystem, uh, the need for customer care, or rather customer centric approach, became that much more profound. I think that's the only change that has COVID brought us. Other than that, I think both of them, Chirag as well as Prateek, said very rightly, it has only evolved, nothing has. So from just good to have to now must to have. Yeah.
You mentioned customer centricity, right? It has become sort of a buzzword now.
It's funny. Yeah, it is abused, I believe, now, because I'll quote from the book of Scott Davis, who has written The Shift. Those who have not read the book, I would recommend you should. It's about how marketers are always treated as, somebody who creates collaterals, or somebody who is there to support the promotional aspect of the brand, and not really,
Especially by sales teams.
especially by sales team, but we may have the folks, so let's not go there. So, but how can a marketer become the real growth person and have a bigger say on the table with the C-suite folks? So it's all about that. He speaks of having 5 shifts in totality that will make a marketer from somebody of a tactician to more of a strategic person. Out of those 5, 2 of them talks about customer. One speaks of, learn, adapt, and evolve model. The other one speaks of influencer marketing and growing your network, really listening to your customers, and then, kind of making the changes to the product. So I feel that.
Interesting. Kumud, I wanted to have your opinion. You're from BFSI. You know the sector very, very well. You are the people who have had the wealth of data about our wealth, lack of it, or aspiration. And customer centricity has been in your, purview for at least 2 decades. So from that perspective, how have you seen the growth over the years?
Sorry, before you speak, I'm sorry, I forgot in the chain of thought. What I wanted to begin saying is that it has been forever, like, because the book came eight years before, and only now we are talking about it. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So I would like to say is that, maybe we say that it's 8 years, 10 years down the line, care is there, but care is a word which starts when we are born, right? So the most important person who comes in our mind when we talk about care is our mother, right? And why do we do that, right? Number one, obviously we know that the person will always stand with you, right? Second is you have complete trust, right? And third is when things go wrong, you still know that your mother is standing for you, right? Relate it to your corporate world. I mean, for your customers as well. Today, what is the need? Personalization. Every customer is unique, right? You can't have the same journey designed for everyone. Everybody is unique. I would like something if it's crafted for me. So when my name pops up, when somebody says that these are the recommendations, financial recommendations for you, Kumud, I would definitely go and see. I mean, yes, it is, resonating to me, right? And my purchases really would be more than 70% because of that, right? So second is, yes, being in BFSI, trust is very important, okay, because we are managing wealth of the customer. Okay, so it's very, very important that we, act as per the, regulatory guidelines, which, the regulators are always telling us. And at the same time, since online channels have increased so much, we should also understand how, we are maintaining the customer database, right? And third is nothing but be transparent to your customer, give them all the information upfront and choices what they can have. So I would say, a pandemic became a new mother of invention, right? So what we could have done in, last 10 years happened in just 1 or 2 years, right? So it, as my fellow panelist Prateek said, Priyanka said, okay, that it's now a must-have. So people are going with it.
Just fast-tracked, I guess. It's just fast.
Yeah,
With the twist of only one thing, what you said is the child knows that the mother is there.
Yeah.
Today, the customers expect you to be there, and they know that you have the ability, your means,
I was going to
and the
ask you a
tools.
question on exactly that.
Yeah.
We volunteer the information because we don't have a choice
Yeah,
to
yeah.
BFSI. For the other verticals who wish they had that kind of information, what's the balance? And you have had experience on the agency side, on the publisher side. How does one tread that delicate balance between your slightly stalkerish, where you just discuss something and Facebook is listening and something popped up, or it's your behavior, to customization? How do you balance the stalking versus the customer centricity?
I think I think as long as the experiences are relevant to me as a customer, the masses in general, one, they know that Facebook is listening, Google is listening, and every other publisher or a platform or a company has the ability to listen. But if that does something good to me, I don't care. I'm happy. So make it as relevant as possible. The expectation of a customer today is a experience, a personalized experience, and the segments or the cohorts for brands today are shrinking to the level of, if I have to quantify it, it has to be n is equal to 1. I want what I want. I don't want what most want. So that's a huge difference.
So on that, n is equal to 1, the audience size of one market into a segment 1, and cohorts and also adjacencies that I sold you this product, hence I might sell you something else. Abhishek, I'd like your view on this. I remember working with Mahindra a while back where they had planned in 2017. At that time, it was path breaking, and they were just setting up Microsoft Dynamics to enable this. They had a concept of golden passports. I'll just give a back segue on where I want him to come and tell us about it. Someone in India buys a tractor. That's a 5 to 7 year purchase cycle. They're not buying a tractor again. You've already engaged with them. You have their attention, you have the connection, and there's nothing you can do for the next 4 years except maybe sell them a passenger vehicle. Once you have sold them a passenger vehicle, another 6 months later, you can sell them a holiday with Club Mahindra. Or now you can sell them a holiday at Club Mahindra with them SUV. So how is first choice coming into it? How are you managing it? Also, where does this customer journey exactly, balance out with all the data and addressability that is available today? In your experience, because you have spent a lot of years also teaching people about digital transformation. So where's the evolution in all these years? Why has it become possible now? Please.
I think companies have had consumer data for eons, but they have never activated at the right points in time. I think owning customer data is one point. Every company does that. All of us have CRMs from best of brands in the world, but companies need to know when to activate that data, right? And that's where the entire journey gets stitched. And that's where the marketeer's dream of having a wonderful life cycle value of a customer is achieved. Now, as a group, we are lucky. We are in multiple businesses. We are in holidays, we are in new cars, we are in tractors, we have Tech Mahindra, which is a B2B solution, and whatnot, right? So what Mahindra tries and does is we sort of try to offer all our offerings to consumers at that point in time when they are looking, right? We have the data, and that's sort of consented with the customers to share across the group, and we say, okay, this person is looking for a car, let's give him 2 options, right? Let's activate him either on the Mahindra group website, or probably he's interacting at some other point within the digital ecosystem, or probably we can offer him a used car based on his profile, or we can offer him a new car, right? And so on and so forth. Whenever there is a new release, we try and go back to these customers and say, hey, at what point is he interacting with us? At what point in his journey is he in-market customer? Is he not an in-market customer? If he's an in-market customer, then the activation channels change, and so on and so forth. We sort of try and activate this database at the right time.
So Chirag mentioned that today customers all of us have started expecting that to happen, right? How is it helping us as marketeers? Somebody recently was telling me that they no longer search for the best fares and compare on sites. They just put it on Google and they click on the ad. They expect it to be the best fare. Skyscanner makes a lot of money from that, where you get something which is 20 to 30% higher. So my question here, why don't you tell me about this? As marketeers, as enablers, brands, agencies, where exactly does the onus of using the new currency of data lie with us? What's going to happen? How is it going to affect your brand capital if you screw up or you don't turn off those personalized messages? Is there a danger there?
So honestly, there's no right answer to this. There are pros and cons both. Depending on which sector and which industry you are working in, you have to draw a fine line. I mean, that's my honest answer, because while I was working with DDB, I've serviced a lot of clients, automobile clients, entertainment clients. Now, for example, entertainment clients like YouTube. Now, creators, they don't mind. Now, YouTube creators was one of the accounts that I had handled. So just to answer this very question, now creator economy is such that they don't mind if you sort of, use that data in the way you want to, like Chirag said, unless you are, it should be relevant. It should not be, creepy or spammy. Till the time you are using it in a appropriate fashion, there is no complaint. But then you cannot dare to do that with a BFSI client, for example. So usage of data and where to, like you said, where to stop. Now that totally depends on the brand and the category that you are servicing in.
Priyanka, interesting question for you. You work with a company that manages clients across the globe.
Yeah.
So where do you think we are on the evolution scale in terms of realization, where we don't have GDPR yet?
Yeah.
The privacy data
Yeah.
regulation is up. So before we are supposed to deploy it,
Yeah.
how many of us are ready to trade our information in hope of a better deal, in hope of a better service? What's your experience?
It's a very interesting question because, as you said, I am working for Europe. Initially, I was working for USA when we were working global market. In US, we are not supposed to say it, but it's okay if you don't have a GDPR. You still have some back channels. You can
don't have the threat of 3% of your P&L.
Yeah, exactly. So it's okay there. And then when you don't have a problem with the GDPR stuff, you can just use a lot of channels like email marketing, APM, use those ads on programmatic and so on and so forth. But when it comes to Europe, there are two challenges. GDPR is not the only one. Your language is also a problem. If you're a French person and seeing an ad in German, it's horrible for your brand, right? And we may not know who's looking at where, which is why we need to employ and deploy a lot of other stuff. So it is difficult. We are still at a very early stage of evolution in that sense, where we are trying to figure out what data we have and is usable. Sometimes we do cross the line, not just GEP. I'm not talking about a brand. I'm talking all the brands. I mean, I've worked with Thomson Reuters, EY. I've worked with Nestle, a lot of B2B, B2C brands. We often cross the line and then come back. It's like 2 steps ahead, 2 steps back. It's
Why do you realize, or when do you realize you've crossed the line and now you have to track back? Performance dips or what?
Actually, performance dips. When you cross the line, in the sense you don't, kind of honor the GDPR, and then you don't see the results also, that not worth it. Money is getting sucked in by these ads and everything. And so you better use the data which is in hand, and you already know that you have the authority to use it. Like, for example, I'm also leading LinkedIn Live program in GEP and did the same for EY. The beauty of that is that once you put an event out there on LinkedIn, there's an auto form fill. I'm sure a lot of us are already aware. It itself gives you a GDPR to a level 1, not a level 2, which is like they may or may not consent it, but you can still use it because it's given. A lot of us don't really focus on ticking the box, right? So we use that data sometimes to go ahead and just put an email out there and kind of gather it. So there's not straight answer to it. It's not bad, it's not good, just that we are not evolved in terms of using that data to the extent which, frankly, a lot of C-suite people would think we are. We are not. And as a marketer, it becomes a prerogative to keep doing it. It's like learn, adapt, and modify. That model goes with it.
Kumud, so again, BFSI, data warehouses. Which are sectors you have seen that things you have been doing for years, they are doing interestingly or making you reconsider how you do it? Any examples you have seen that we all can learn from?
So since I'm from broking industry, I would say it has gone a tremendous change, right? For example, people, a commoner like you and me, initially when you were applying for IPOs, you had to go to bank, fill 10 pages, okay, and then give a check and then wait for what is happening. Right now, just 3 click of a button and you are done, okay? Second is POA, you have to give, right? Power of attorney. Right now, regulatory have done changes where you can do an online process through DDPI. So it's a change. Regulators are understanding and making changes, which is adaptable to today's customer, right? So if you see, the kind of acquisition that, the broking industry had in last 2 years, it's like, I would say it is 3 or 4 times more than what it was. And the trend has been that, tier 2 and tier 3 cities have been using more. That means common person also is now, he wants to trade, which earlier was not in, very common. So we need to understand what was the need. I mean, if people like, you and me wants to trade, it's easy for him. What is required? Number one, research. Number two, you don't have time, so obviously much more good recommendations you need. So we have come up with 360-degree research app where you don't have to do anything, just go. If you are an investor, these are the top 5 recommendations for you, you can easily invest your money. Second is, if there is a difference between investor and trader. So say suppose you don't know about options trading, then we have a ready-made solution offered to you where you can just, you don't have to strategize it.
Not make you feel left out, but actually
Yes.
customize it in a
Yes.
relevant way to help business.
Yes. So when you do log in, you will understand that this option strategy is based on your behavioral pattern. It is coming for you, recommended for you. So you can always go and try, which earlier was not available unless and until somebody specialized person is helping you out to strategize.
It
that.
also has it also customizes based on the risk appetite of the
Yes.
investor, right? Like, because I have used
Right.
Motilal Oswal in the past, and the
Right.
whole recommendations are based on the risk profile.
So basically, your whatever portfolios you have and what is your risk appetite, your whatever persona you have, basis that only the recommendation will flow. And also, earlier what used to happen, people used to just open the trading terminal and see whether the market is going up, down. For people who are like, a corporate job or a doctor, will not be able to see that. So whenever the risk appetite is going to go up or down, there are instant alerts which come to you. So which was not there earlier. So predictive modeling has come into picture a lot more. In fact, the advisory services, we believe in a hybrid kind of a servicing. So what happens? You have time, you do it. Otherwise, the advisor also need the same kind of support which a customer wants, because they are people who wants to know what are the recommendations basis each person's requirement. So that has also helped not only to customers but also internal employees to deliver better. So these are the
Perfect
changes.
example, I think, of personalization is what you're
Yes,
giving us.
yes.
But to your question, if you go around taking opinions whether this data usage is right, not right, etc., in the masses, the number of groups that will be formed will be equal to the number of political parties in India. That will be so many of them, different opinions. However,
You meant
Yeah.
political, not ruling.
yeah, absolutely. Sometimes in the erstwhile era, I think 10 years back, number of ruling parties making a coalition together. Okay. So, having said that, I feel personally that, the regulation is important. But if you just cut, copy, paste GDPR from there to here, it might just not work. We're a very different country. We are a country of 130 crore people, right? Versus just like they are just a tip of an iceberg of what we are, right? Context matters. And it is also, whenever you download a new app, it says, okay, it'll ask for permissions,
That's a common
notifications,
theme, right? The audience you have in
locations, etc.,
Luxembourg,
etc.
and
And
they
what,
it's the same.
yeah, and what is your action? You say allow. Why do you say it? Because of personalization. What you exactly said. Because it's adding value to my life, right? While I'm giving this data, but it's a double-edged sword. This data going in wrong hands can be a massacre.
Abhishek, some tips and tricks that, a cheat sheet of sort that you have learned over the years, from being on the brand side, managing entertainment, to having taught digital marketers and transformation also. So if you don't have, the appetite to do all of the homework, everyone loves a cheat sheet. So how do we start out with this? Samir talked us through a lot of the features, for example, that we have, but that's like 20 icons on a screen. Actually planning and building it out before you get your Konnect Insight subscription, you still need a plan, right? So what has your learning been? Where do you start? 2 or 3 reckoners that one can plan out.
I think back to the point where all of us own data, I think it's important we understand our consumer. And I think a lot of brands understand the consumer at the macro level. Like Chirag was saying, it has to be one-to-one understanding. For that, I think once for brands which have apps, it becomes a lot easier because you start seeing uh, personal behavior of every consumer, and that consumer can be given customized communication. It can be a very customized, like recommendation, or it could be, the customized cars in our case that, hey, this is what you would be interested in based on the lifestyle you have selected, based on if you have done a Facebook login, then you get those kind of information data to feed in. So you can start giving a lot more personalization recommendations there. So I think it's important in which domain you are. If you are an app-based business, it would slightly vary. If you're a non-app-based business, if you are a lot of brick and mortar, or if you have only a digital website, so cookies don't give you so much data. Every consumer is not going to leave his PI data there. Right? He's not going to leave his name and mobile number. So it's going to be slightly different play or a cheat sheet that they will need to follow. But ultimately, I think a lot of looking back at the data, at how much is the engagement the customer is liking it, disliking it, is he subscribing, unsubscribing. I think continuously monitoring the data and then sort of planning your strategy on a quarter-on-quarter basis, then saying this is the template, I'm going to look at it after a year. I don't think that's going to be right for any brand. That will be very agile. Look at a data on a day-to-day basis and take actions on that.
Prateek, we were talking about something coming from there on how you realize the work you used to do in a week happens in between tea break and dinner on the product side when you shifted from the agency. Given that context, how important, because if I was in a media agency, using data for better delivery and CTRs was my priority. Now that you're on the product side and the brand and you understand retaining the customer, having the trust is important. How important is it to be transparent with what I'm doing with your data, which is where GDPR and all this comes up with, right? Those are regulations. Under threat of a punishment, we of course end up doing it. But how important from a customer centricity perspective, and have you seen any benefit? So if I'm transparent with what I do with your data, does it reflect out in reviews and other things according to you?
So yes, to your question, the short answer is yes. Definitely, reflects in our consumer testimonials. So I'll tell you, like when I moved,
You can plug the app. It's okay.
yeah, surely. So I mean, most of y'all might know we have two apps like My 11 Circle, Rummy Circle. My 11 is fantasy app, and Rummy Circle is a card, real cash gaming and card gaming. So typically, like you said, like as far as fantasy is concerned, now that is already kind of established in India, all thanks to our competitors. But Rummy is still in a space where there is a gray zone. Like people, there are set of people who believe it's game of chance, and there are a set of people who believe it's a game of skill. So to answer your question with respect to whether we have seen that impact of transparency resonating back from our customers, yes. So all the all the apps we have, both the apps, they have geofencing, they have a lot of IP restrictions, a lot of things, because there are a lot of states where these apps are not allowed. So this is very well communicated, right? Like even if you are from a restricted state, for example, firstly you won't see your ad, you won't see our ad in a restricted state. And by chance, if you saw, because say for example you are from a restricted state, but you're traveling now for this event, and today you saw that, but even when you click that, clearly on the landing page you will it's highlighted in a very, very visible way, and not like star terms and conditions. It's very visible that we will not allow gameplay from XYZ states.
And that has had a positive.
Oh, definitely. Because I'll tell you why. Because when it has a positive impact in three ways. One, from our own stakeholders. Second, from the government, because they know that we are following the protocols to the face. And with respect to the statutory warning, if you see, that also has a rule that it has to be some XYZ percentage of your creative. So all of that is being followed, and all of that has resulted in very good stakeholder confidence, trust, and in the end, all drill down to our bottom line. So yeah, I mean, obviously I can't reveal numbers if you are asking that, but yeah, not on the stage. Yeah.
Any questions for any of us? This is where you raise your hand and ask.
Before we take questions, I just want to add some points in terms of tips and tricks for a marketer, for example. I think having an appetite for innovation and technology is at the forefront of everything. Believe me, I mean, in my span of a decade and a half working for organizations, It may look unlikely, but not everybody has an appetite for it. But it has to be if you want to promote analytics, if you want to work upon it, if you want to use the data. Just gathering the data is not enough. Just having the MarTech tool is not enough, right? You know?
How do you help the C-suite define an appetite? Is it a percentage of your P&L, percentage of your marketing budgets,
Great question.
goals?
Great question. So here's, okay, it's not a straight answer, but I can give you a real life example from GEP. So it's a company owned by traditional folks. Okay, they're late boomers. They don't understand the digital platform, more so the social media, right? And it's difficult to crack them open in terms of accepting it. Although we do have our own software, but that's a very different game altogether, right, than the digital marketing sphere. So to make them understand, it took us 3 years of why they should be on social, for example, and why there has to be a massive budget for programmatic and ads and MarTech tools like sales. Why should Salesforce be implemented, for example? Or why should, for example, we should have Konnect Insight for it, for one, as an example of that. And it took time. There's a change management. Frankly, if you take it as a part of your P&L, you may be aggressive, but that's not going to be a very progressive move on your part. As a marketer, you have to be progressive. Think from not a perspective of, okay, I have a skill or experience of, say, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years. Think from a perspective of, am I influencer enough to make that change management, make the people believe in what I understand, make the people believe in the vision I have, not me, I mean, as a marketer, as a person you guys have, and then work upon it. So it has to be very progressive. It cannot be part of P&L, although the companies do reward you, the results are rewarding in itself. So these are a couple of things, I think.
So taking a cue from that word that
Please.
you used,
Please.
change management.
Yeah.
The number one reason for digital transformation projects in organization to fail is human resource, right? You can buy any technology in the world, you can buy any tool in the world, but if your organization or the people in your organization don't embrace that culture, everything goes in vain.
Resilience becomes the biggest.
Absolutely. So change management, receptiveness to customer centricity, or that culture of care,
Yeah.
coming back to our topic, is extremely important. Your tools won't work, nothing would work if you don't put the human angle in place.
So I had a question for you, Kumud, here. In one of my previous stints at RE, we were taught that when you have to evaluate anything, like innovations, like customer centricity, at the end, if it doesn't affect your P&L, it will be challenging to sell it. So luckily, we had a CEO with a vision and IMD with a vision who got that. So he articulated very nicely. And then you have to describe things between either a brand or a business or a customer benefit. Not all businesses will articulate the hierarchy in that order. According to you, where is the shift happened in the last 5 to 6 years? You don't have to stick to BFSI anymore. For a
So, Chirag, a good question to answer. I would say number
It's
one.
Nikhil, by the way.
Nikhil, by the
Sorry,
way.
Nikhil. Sorry.
Happens always.
Chirag is just on my right hand side.
You're in
Okay, Nikhil.
consideration.
So I would say, see what companies are currently doing is, they have taken digital transformation as their agenda, right? After pandemic. But just on the race of digital agenda, don't forget whether it's actually required by your customer or not, number one. Number two, whether it is actually meeting the need of the customer or not, right? Because what happens is sometimes, what is the need of your business, okay, may not be, I would say, just like we were making chatbot, right? So industry wide, it was a FAQ chatbot. My B2B customers did not need that. So we went contrary.
So it's okay not to be
So,
present as long you
yes.
have a solid reason.
Solid reason behind it. And obviously, you do something different. For example, we came with a API based, chatbot, which really helped them, right? So the moment you understand the need, it will reflect in your P&L or it will reflect in the results, right? So understanding the need is the first prime importance, which as marketer or as CX heads, we should be stressing on. Obviously, companies are, more interested in the results. So it will be a byproduct. See, you have to form processes. Results are the byproduct of it, right? If we just see that, we have to get only the P&L, then, it will not work. Customer has to be the focus of everything.
One summary I'd basically,
I will-
before that, one thing that I've noticed is the reason care used to be under customer support, which was after sales, like you mentioned, it also determines where your budgets sit. Technology costs money and it has to have a priority on business, okay, right? So the shift from after sales, where it's a function good to have for your reconsideration, to marketing, to sales, to today business itself, on the reason you'll consider, that has happened along with technology, which is why we are having this discussion.
Yes.
So
No, now I have 2 points instead of one. So one, I want to relate. I know your name is Nikhil. So one point with Kumud mentioned, I will reflect back on what Simon Sinek said. He said that when you're giving bonuses for somebody's, productivity or somebody's work, you're not actually giving bonus for the work or the result. You're giving the bonus or you're giving the PLN for their behavioral change. It may lead to, because if you're going to tie only to, okay, you get me result no matter what, it can lead to bad behavior as well. It can lead to a lot of bad hustle. However, the companies are very effectively now tying it to the behavioral change. I need this given XYZ conditions. You get it and you get the PNL. So when you say change management, it cannot be part of just, okay, you dangle the carrot of money in front of the marketers and they get it. They can't get it. It in fact creates a negative pressure on a lot of people. It has to come from an influencing perspective of having a voice on the table perspective. And that's how gradually, but you start seeing the changes. That was what I wanted to say.
Abhishek, how has addressability, the fact that today the audience size of one, the fact that we can reach out to certain people, set them aside and only customize and message to them, in your experience, how has that affected all of these business scales, the technology? You've seen multiple things we were discussing, right? How remarketing was a buzzword at a point of time, and sometimes the technology was ahead of the curve, sometimes appetite didn't happen. So today it seems like all of it is there. You have the tech, you have capability. So where is the balance between getting lost in the crowd for somebody who's starting out versus having, way too many choices to set it up? Your POV.
I think one gap which I still see in the industry is the implementation partners. I think we have all the tech in India, we have the best of minds, but having the right implementation partner really matters, though you buy the best tech, right? In terms of the other piece, where do we draw the line or where do we start for a startup? I think it's not important to do everything on day one. It's important to imagine the customer journey. You need to be ahead of the curve in imagining the customer journey, that where it's going to be 5 years down the line, and start with baby steps. Yeah, exactly. You need to have your vision, right? I mean, it's not really the vision of the business, but it's the vision of the industry. Where is the customer going to be tomorrow, right? And a lot of businesses were able to see that post-pandemic, and now a lot of businesses have, after being onboarded on digital transformation journey, now they realize, okay, this is what we could have done pre-pandemic, and this is what we lost, I think. So it's really important that you start with baby steps. You don't need to do everything on day one. It could be very simple communication via WhatsApp, communication via SMS, communication via, IVRs. It could be very basic, simple things, but it's important to map out the entire journey on day one and then sort of address one thing at a time.
I can't stress the importance of SMS as a channel. In my time as Lenskart, for example, we were discussing this earlier, right? We used to have monthly, quarterly business reviews where we'd have Facebook, Google, and Netco discussing what we can do. The best statistics we have noticed is, I'm sure most of you would have been bombarded around the first or second with salary credit to your Lenskart wallet. Please go to the store and check it out and buy glasses. If you haven't, please give me a phone number. I'll get it on board and you'll get that credit. But the fun part about that was we used to spend 1 crore rupees every month on sending SMSs at about 4 to 6 paise. 6 paise if you're on DND, 4 paise if you're not. But you didn't hear that from me. The more important part is we used to do A/B tests to see how effective these are. We used to try and see at least once every quarter, just to screw around with the CFO, no other reason. We'll just stop SMS for a week to see if there are savings. Our walk-ins would dip by 28%. So while we talk about tech integrations and all of it, you have a coupon code that's coming up to you. People are genuinely lazy. They don't use the coupon code. They just walk into the store because you've been reminded by an SMS, apparently an old medium, which still works better than the omni-channel functions and all the cool tech that Facebook, Google, and the others bring in. it causes people to visit. And of course, we were sensible businesses, so we made sure that the coupon code doesn't automatically appear when you enter your phone number. We didn't want to give you a discount, we wanted you to buy stuff. So at the end of it, those learnings, which is I was asking you, you're in a unique place, right? That most of the brands we are talking about still talk about India 1, SECA and all, but India 2 is still the larger market. So you can, don't misinterpret my words, but take over the market sizes of Europe, America put together and still not come to a metro easily and still disrupt and make more revenue, be more effective. So any additions there that you have noticed that we'd be surprised by?
I think when we say we've been talking about personalization, I think a lot of personalization comes when you talk to the consumers in the real India in their vernacular language. I think being vernac friendly for all the brands is very important. We saw that at the contact center, all the brands ensure they have the vernac support in the contact center, but now a lot of brands have started using in their communication as well, right? If you see anything that you see on Facebook, on Insta, a lot of it comes state specific, region specific. A lot of app based businesses have multiple languages in the app. Websites have evolved and grown from there. I'm sure you must be seeing a lot of
We do that, like just what you said. So if you see a ad in Maharashtra, it is the entire the actor or the player is also from Maharashtra. The language is also Mara. Everything is very, very culturally relevant. So that's one thing that I completely resonate, because we operate in multiple states. Our games are operating across India. So every state, the performance ads for every state are very, very differently made in terms of aesthetics also, and in terms of obviously language as well. So
okay. Any
while-
closing thoughts, Chirag?
I do have
after
one.
your thing?
of course.
Because we don't have any questions before we. Ishfaq, we let her make a point and then
Yeah,
question.
otherwise I'll forget. While we are talking a lot about micros and very personalized communication and conversations for our customers, we must not forget the macro of it. Not all data is very personalized or has to be about personalization. A lot of it has to also be contextual and also making our customers be more educative of what their choices are. Sometimes there's something in the future and they may not know. As a visionary or from a brand or a person, you may know that it can be a requirement of tomorrow, for example. So you need to build that into the today's context as well. And a lot of tools do help us in getting that. Like for
Like
example,
stopping emails because you haven't opened or you're not interested.
exactly, or
Obvious stuff.
changing the content altogether, for example, or being in the trends which are in building. So what happens majorly is we see trends when they're already built up, but trend is something that's happening in the moment. So catching that up,
Preempted rather than
preemptive, yeah. So not to forget that being revenue driven or being very microed, we should not forget that we also need to educate our people. They may or may not be very, on the line of the trend happening. Question.
While I know that slip says last 5 minutes, for all of us, we've spoken too much. Let's make it a little more interesting. So let's go around the table and ask each one of us that where is it headed? Where is it going to go 10 years from now?
Take
A
no
wild
question.
thought, or maybe a wild personalization. I may call it fantasy. Let's figure it out. Let's start.
Actually, I'll flip it so I can also save the time. Any of you want to try that out?
Yeah.
Where do you think we are headed 5 years from today?
Ishfaq, you want to try? Let's put all the lights there.
So, okay. I was actually looking at the same conversation that you guys had about customer experience, right? And actually, I think we discussed the same thing backstage, right? So, just to give you a simple context, when you say best customer experience, we usually target this particular thing after the customer is onboarded. We never actually use it as a USP, which basically I think should be done and should be the first approach, right? So the question is, right, as per your experience, because I can see that you guys have great experience in terms of industries that you guys have worked with, right? When you say best customer experience, how do you define that, right? And what are the tips that you would like to share with all of the brands that are sitting with us as of now? And do you have any tips to make sure that we approach that in the right way? And basically that would help us improve the brand presence on social as well as the overall customer experience that we want to offer to our customers.
I have an answer for him. This was a benefit of having worked for a cult brand, which basically looks at every customer as a potential customer. You're either a past, present, or future customer. Royal Enfield, for example. It's very hard to not be affected by it. I have conducted over 700 interviews, and everyone has had a story. Either it pisses you off or you have an endearing story. So basically, build a brand that's remark worthy. It doesn't leave people unaffected. And on the basis of that, either you're planning to recruit them in the future. So they are future market, near market, or in market. Always helps, gets more budgets also from sales. I think we are out of time.
Yeah.
For today.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Here.
Where we are headed? Where are we headed? 10
Where are
years
we
from
headed?
Yeah, that was interesting actually.
So I think all the tier 1 companies are already monitoring your behavior to tell you what you need to buy or what you need to do in life. So they are planning for you 5 years. So, but when it comes to enterprise or when it comes to India, then should we not anticipate the changes which we will want after 5 years in terms of technology, in terms of people? Whenever we say preemptive, how much intuitive you can be at the customer's level. So all we can do is that we can tell our people not to work on the existing anything. Just do everything for 10 years down the line. Just like maybe a touch screen has come. Everybody was giving a touch screen. I think Panasonic was the first phone which was giving a pen-based touch screen, but somebody thought that no, it could be a finger. It could be anything else. So likewise, every business which we are standing at, we are only handling the customers of now. We're only anticipating what can happen the next year. But can we, just like Yuval Harari said, that can we anticipate 50 years down the line? No, we cannot. Can we think of a product 10 years down the line? Can we see how a customer is going to behave? So the macro is very, very important. Everything, at my understanding, nothing is personalized. We all have a common goal. Care and nurture. Care and nurture. When that's that, then you all have to work on the from the subjectivity to the objectivity of what we are collecting as a data, personalized data, and then anticipate 5 years down the line. When I will grow, much grayer hairs, then what will happen? Likewise, so it's the people of the organization which can only, the top of the pyramid can always tell the every hiring that boss, you have to think about 5 years down the line, not today. What we have done is done. And I think I should not say for the, I look at Kumud and I see a kid going to the college or school, I must say that. But then we are leaders of today, maybe, but of not tomorrow. So hire the new people and tell them not to work on the existing business at all. Work on the future business. Think about the future, which I think most of the American companies or Western companies are already doing. YouTube is listening to me. They're taking one check of Siri or this or that, but they're listening to me. And then they tell me if I'm talking to someone on the diabetes. Then they tell you that Ayurvedic solution on the diabetes or this solution or that solution. They're monitoring your behavior so that they can anticipate 5 years down the line. So that's where, that's what my understanding is, where we're heading. I think we should grow up very fast, not handling the care of now. We should handle the care of tomorrow, the future.
Very well said.
Preemptive rather than reactive.
I've got a very interesting one. I'll say that.
Thanks, Iman,
So,
for all your future
Blessings.
aspirations.
So just imagine, so today we live on the internet. Tomorrow we're going to live in the internet. So
Meta.
think about metaverse.
Yeah.
The world is ready to embed chips inside their brain, Neuralink and all of that. So
Dude,
just
there are embryos. There's a whole
envisage
facility for embryos.
how will care change. One interaction with your customer, potentially you could measure the amount of dopamine and serotonin releasing in your brain. And that level of analysis, what kind of conversation is doing what chemicals in your brain.
I'll leave all of you
Will
with
be.
that happy thought for the next panel now, because we have a great vision.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.